Well, it's funny, people that we hear the story a lot with entrepreneurs ended up finding the thing they're supposed to be doing. They struggle in school, they can't sit down to study and deliver things on time. And then all of a sudden they get into the right opportunity and these humans will work 60, 70, 80 hours a week and not blink and be so happy and do really amazing, incredible things. I think once we find the right opportunity for you, the thing that you're most drawn to, and if you're brave enough to chase that thing. And here's the thing, I'm a big fan of risk mitigation, but at the end of the day, the thing you try to go do is probably going to be incredibly risky. And the majority of people in your life aren't going to have done it. It's hard to do that because when you're launching, you're kind of doing it on your own because a lot of your friends and family won't have gone down the same path you did. I mean, that was my case. I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family. My wife definitely didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family. And so the first time we did it, everybody thought we were crazy. Imagine you're going down the road of entrepreneurship, and you sort of have a destination in mind, which is your vision for your future, right? That's the destination. You may or may not get there, but the journey is the reward, right? But if you're on that road, there's two sides to each road. And on the entrepreneurial road, those sides are big cliffs. And if you fall off of them, there's no coming back. And what I ended up finding out about those two cliffs was they had
All right, what's up, y'all? It's Parker with UPBEAT, and we're back for another awesome episode today with Chandler Lyles on the show. How's it going, man?
Man, I'm so excited to be on this show. I kind of feel like I'm in front of a celebrity a little bit because, your boy has never done a McDonald's commercial before, even though that'd be cool as hell.
Hey, that was definitely a big opportunity, but you've started way bigger companies and done you've got amazing things. So we're excited to highlight that here on the show today. And if you don't mind kind of starting with a brief introduction of, maybe who you are and what led you to creating Highbeam and working in advertising.
My name is Chandler Lyles. I am a co-owner of a digital advertising agency called Highbeam Marketing. We're 3 years old in September, so we're a little bit over halfway to a 5-year milestone, which we can get into. But the first 5 years you're in business are your toughest 5 years because you're learning how to get product market fit, building your systems, hiring the right people, getting enough cash, all those good things. And so it's exciting times over there. We just hired our 4th employee, so we are a team of 4 now. So still a small team, but it's great. But the company I ran before that, I owned a barbecue restaurant for 6 years. And before that, I was a contract specialist with the United States Air Force. So I helped the government do business with small businesses all over America. And that was an incredible opportunity as well. How I got into marketing is it's kind of a long, winding story. It's the Steve Jobs quote, I think, where he says you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And it's truly that. Like I said, I started in the Air Force, and then I got into this hobby of backyard barbecuing, and then slowly over time started selling it to friends around base there. And then I got bit with the dream of opening 1,000 restaurants and had no idea how tough that was going to be. And so left the Air Force after my contract ended with my wife, moved back to Lexington, Kentucky. And then we launched a barbecue tent on the side of the road with my mom and dad. So it was a family business, and we did that and bootstrapped it. And the thing is, and many people out there listening will know, when you're a bootstrapped business and you don't have a lot of venture capital behind you and you don't have a lot of family money behind you, and you're literally, we started with $5,000, and that was it. And you have to do everything. You truly are the CEO, the chief everything officer, right? And part of the thing I had to learn how to do was market the business, because I was competing against McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, every other local restaurant, and every major brand with billions of dollars in advertising to spend. So we had to get really creative with it. And luckily, I just really fell in love with the marketing side of things. And we can get into this story, but we ran that barbecue restaurant for 6 years. I got on a couple national TV shows, did a lot of really fun, exciting things, crossed $1 million a year in revenue, which was exciting for us for a 25-seat restaurant. But then, due to some really bad decisions I made because of an ego and just not being very wise, to be frank with you, that business crashed. And I made one bad decision, and 4 months later, the whole thing was gone. All that momentum was gone. And so I got to take 2 years off from being an entrepreneur and go work for somebody else. And there's nothing worse than working on your own thing and then turning around and having to be humble again and go work for somebody else. So I got lucky. I landed if you know who Dave Ramsey is, he's a big financial radio host guy here in the
Absolutely.
States. Yeah, so I went and worked for him on a brand called the EntreLeadership brand, which was such a good brand for me to be on because they coach business owners. And so for 2 years, I got to work with a ton of really smart marketers and learn more about marketing and really hone my craft as a marketer and a strategist. And I got to meet and talk to a ton of other small business owners. And so I got to learn from them and ask them questions and be like, here's what I did. What mistakes did I make? And about 2 years after that, I was ready to open my own thing again. And I met my two co-founders there at Ramsey as well. They were on the paid media team. And that's how HighBeam Marketing was born. It was just sort of, I got this rule in life. I follow what I'm interested in. I'm not very good at having a plan. I'm not very good at doing the traditional thing. I failed out of college after 3 semesters. I always struggled in high school, but I've always chased the next thing I was interested in. And that's led me to somewhere I'm really happy with.
That's amazing. There's so much in there too that like each of the things has 5 or 6 lessons that we could uncover, right? I love learning kind of the story, but also I really am resonating with what you just said about following whatever it is that you're interested in. That's something that I can relate to. And for a long time, I've been saying that our passions are like breadcrumbs from God, where like we wouldn't be interested in those things if it wasn't for a reason, if that wasn't what we were supposed to be doing anyway. And that you can actually have the most impact if you pursue those things. So, because if you get stuck doing something you hate, then you're going to be like probably not the most impactful at it.
Well, it's funny, people that we hear the story a lot with entrepreneurs ended up finding the thing they're supposed to be doing. They struggle in school. They can't sit down to study and deliver things on time and participate in the activities they're supposed to be participating in. And then all of a sudden they get into the right opportunity and these humans will work 60, 70, 80 hours a week and not blink and be so happy and do really amazing, incredible things. And I think that's any human being. I think you're right. I think once we find the right opportunity for you, the thing that you're most drawn to, and if you're brave enough to chase that thing. And here's the thing you're interested in, especially I'm trying to think how to say this without like giving somebody bad advice. I'm a big fan of risk mitigation, but at the end of the day, the thing you try to go do is probably going to be incredibly risky, and the majority of people in your life aren't going to have done it. And it's hard to do that because when you're launching, you're kind of doing it on your own because a lot of your friends and family won't have gone down the same path you did. I mean, that was my case. I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family. My wife definitely didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family. And so the first time we did it, everybody thought we were crazy.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's been lots of changes. I mean, first of all, I want to acknowledge, your time in the Air Force and just say thanks for your service. That's a big deal. So thank you.
Thank
Of course. And then you did the barbecue restaurant too and some other things. So what were maybe what led you to that initially? You probably maybe briefly covered it. And then what were some of the biggest lessons you learned in that time frame that's now helped you with what you're building now with HighBeam?
Oh man, I could probably write my own book that only I would buy based on the lessons I learned from the barbecue restaurant time. Because you don't know what you don't know, right? And I think starting right there, the biggest lesson I learned is that, and this is something I teach our team every single day at HighBeam now. Imagine you're going down the road of entrepreneurship, and you sort of have a destination in mind, which is your vision for your future, right? That's the destination. You may or may not get there, but the journey is the reward, right? But if you're on that road, there's 2 sides to each road. And on the entrepreneurial road, those sides are big cliffs. And if you fall off of them, there's no coming back. And what I ended up finding out about those 2 cliffs was they had a clear description. And on the left side is the don't bankrupt the brand. And on the right side is don't bankrupt the business. And so don't bankrupt the brand would be something like, don't be a Nazi. You know what I mean? Like something very, publicly bad, like that's not going to be a good thing for you if it comes out that is something about you, right? Like that's bankrupting the brand. You kick puppies, like whatever. Like don't do dumb shit that helps bankrupt the brand. And on the right side is don't bankrupt the business, right? And that's what I ended up doing with the restaurant ultimately, was taking a huge financial risk, going all in on a new opportunity. And it only worked if it all worked. And if it worked, I would have probably driven a super sweet Ferrari around or something dumb, but like it didn't, because of course it wasn't going to work. It wasn't a good business strategy. So that's probably like the biggest philosophical overarching sort of lesson that I took from those barbecue days. And I'm trying to apply those every single day here with Highbeam. You know, as we go to take risk and do things, for instance, we started as a virtual company at Highbeam. Our team was virtual. All of our clients are pretty much all over the country, which is great. But then, you know, we were all there local, just south of Nashville at the time. And we said, what would it be like for us to have an office? Well, a lot of people will go out and sign an office lease. It's a triple net lease, which means you're responsible for everything inside and outside, except for like the walls, essentially. Triple net leases, by the way, are a freaking nightmare. Like, don't even get me started on a commercial real estate game.
Make that.
Yeah. So, but we took the risk of getting an office space, but we said, okay, signing a 5-year lease on a company that's only at the time 2 years old feels like a really big risk. And if it doesn't work out, we're kind of bankrupt. You know, we're going to be on the hook for, I think it's like $2,000 a month in rent. And like, nobody really wants to pay that if the business isn't actually still around. So what we did, we said, okay, we're gonna rent an office, but it's gonna be no more than $2,000 a month, which was our budget at the time. And we said also that we're gonna get terms that are favorable to us and that they mitigate our risk. And this means we may not get the best spot in town, but if things don't work out, we won't be out of the game forever. And so that's what we did. We signed a 1-year lease with 2 1-year options, and we fixed in the rent increases already, so we already know what that is budget wise, so we can budget out more efficiently over the next 3 years. And that is a great example of what I did not do in the barbecue restaurant. I didn't think that far ahead. I was just like, yeah, we got to get this next thing. We got to get to a brick and mortar building. I don't care where it is. Like, we can't be in this tent on the side of the road anymore, getting washed out every time there's a bad rainstorm or snowstorm. Like, we got to do volume, boom, boom, boom. Like, let's just go. And we put ourselves in a lot of headaches trying to get commercial property as a restaurant. Yeah, so that's probably the biggest thing. And I'm happy to go further into detail, but I don't want to ramble on too long because I could probably talk for the next hour.
No, you're good. And that was awesome. I love that analogy too of the cliffs on either side and just like kind of staying in your lane, so to speak, but not necessarily not taking risks. It's just when you do, it's about being smart and exercising that discernment and like being strategic about it. Whereas something I've seen these days, kind of the bad side of pursue your passion, right, is just go all in on something that's not working.
Yeah.
And people make some really dumb decisions and then they get really stuck.
Yeah. The first business, the barbecue restaurant, my contract with the Air Force ended. I had sold like $1,000 worth of barbecue to friends around the base. And I said, I'm ready to be an entrepreneur full time. I had like $10,000 in the bank max. We'd already bought all the equipment we needed to start the tent on the side of the road. So I left the Air Force, no plan. My wife was a school teacher. We don't have crazy family wealth or anything like that. And we launched. And I think the first year in business, we made like $68,000. And I remember very vividly my wife calling me one day, maybe 3 or 4 months into this whole thing, where she was like, I couldn't put more than $12 in gas in the car. And so it was just an incredibly stupid way to start a business. Businesses are hard enough. So your job is to mitigate risk as much as possible. And so what I thought about luckily we survived it. I will say that. Like, I'm the exception, not the rule. Like, I don't think I would recommend anybody do that again, because I didn't do that with the second business. Like, part of what I did was when I left Ramsey, I got a job where I was a remote worker. And so I had a lot of free time to both do my day job and to work on my business throughout the work week. And so I was able to build Highbeam up with my co-founders where we all had remote jobs and really mitigate the risk, because none of us had ever owned an agency before. But because we had day jobs and we had money coming in and we didn't like put any stress on our family for a year and a half, it was a side hustle, believe it or not. And we could have quit those jobs probably 6 months in and gone all in. But because I had done this already once before, I was probably overly cautious, and that's a whole other situation. But we had these day jobs. We were able to figure out the model. We were able to put a lot of money into the bank. We were able to get our first clients and case studies and build the website and rebuild the website and get branding and do all the things that cost a lot of money but don't bring a lot of money in. And now we're in a much much better place. And this second business that I started is a lot less stressful than the first one. And part of that's just having walked the road before, but a lot of that is I didn't put myself in a financial position to where it was going to be again, back to the bankruptcy of the brand thing. I would have drove myself crazy had I tried to do that again.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, thanks for sharing all that. It's definitely super helpful, and I can see the engagement going over here to my left on my phone that's live streaming, and people are eating it up. So that's awesome. We appreciate it. To kind of uncover more about High Beam, because we've mentioned that a couple times in the episode, but haven't really opened it up and looked at it. What, like, if you could explain High Beam and what the purpose is of High Beam, um, and maybe explain how advertising can help with some of the trials that we've talked about.
High Beam Marketing is a digital advertising agency, and in the industry, it's known as a performance marketing agency. So what we do is I'm going to say we very liberally here. My partners are very smart at this stuff, and they're the ones that do all this. I'm just sort of the sales guy and the front man. They're the ones that they're actually the talent doing all the things. But they put these things on your website called a pixel, and that essentially gives us the ability to track a lot of the conversion events that happen on your site. So we really do well with e-commerce business owners, for instance. So if you're trying to sell something online and your customer base is nationwide, you could be a good fit as a client for us. And what we'll do is we'll go in and help you figure out, okay, should we do Google ads? Should we do Facebook ads, Bing ads, TikTok ads, Amazon ads maybe? And then our whole goal is to make creative that stops the scroll, gets people's attention, and converts them to do business with you. And then hopefully be able to track that information so that we can spend more money and get more money back. I think right now, the last time I looked, we're at like a 6.03 or 0.5x return on ad spend for our portfolio of e-com clients. So that means, for anybody that doesn't know out there, that for every dollar you give us, we give you 6 back, which is pretty good. It's a good trade-off. Now, the problem is, and this is what happened to me in my first business, and luckily with this business, I am the marketer, so I don't have to outsource this stuff, but it's expensive, right? And cash flow is a major problem for any startup business that's getting bootstrapped. So you've got to learn how to do this stuff on your own. And I have a marketing strategy that I advise people to do on their own, and I'm happy to go over that with you here if you want to do that here in a minute. But you basically got to know how to do all this stuff on your own. You got to know how to do everything at a high enough level so that as you grow the business and you get more cash in the door, you can delegate the right money producing task to other people that you don't want to do. And that's really where we come in. So generally we end up helping people that have e-com brands that are doing about $1 million a year in revenue. And we usually help scale them up to 10. And then that's about when they're ready to bring it in-house and continue to grow their business that way. So ironically enough, people will outgrow us, which is a great thing to have happen. And some people outgrow us and just like working with us and they stay.
Nice. Yeah, that's amazing. It would definitely, if you're open to it, would love to go through some of that, the strategy. And then also, if you've got a link or anything to plug, like I'm more than happy for you to plug that, and I'll put it in the show notes and everything too, just so people can access it.
I have everybody join our email list. We send out a weekly marketing newsletter where we try to give some tips and tricks and link you to our latest YouTube videos or blog posts. But we're in the middle of writing like a very short white paper ebook, lead magnet, whatever you want to call that thing, where it basically is going to unpack this marketing strategy in full detail. But yeah, every company should start with, well, let's back it up. I'm assuming you know who you serve, who your ideal customer is. I'm assuming you know what problem they have. And I'm assuming you know what actual product or service you can give them to solve that problem. So like, are we all in agreement that that's sort of like square one? Without those things, like marketing's not helpful because if you start marketing a business without all three of those things very clearly articulated, you end up suffering from something we call random acts of marketing, which is like, I bought a radio ad, I bought a billboard, I hit the little blue boost button on Facebook and it didn't work. TikTok convinced me to give them $50 for little TikTok gold coins, and now I'm running TikTok ads. I don't really know what that is, and shop and da-da-da. Like, it's all random. And so you got to step back and you got to start with, who are we serving? What problem do they have? What do we actually do to fix that problem? And then once you have all that in line, then it's pretty simple. But simple doesn't mean easy, right? And I think that's where people get sort of upset with marketing is they're like, I can't believe you're giving me this advice. I've heard this a million times. And my job is not to teach you anything new, hopefully today. My job is to just remind you to do the crap that works.
I think it means clarity.
Clarity, yeah.
Like the vision is clear, but you still got to put in the work and stuff.
That's exactly right. Yep. So you start with branding. Your branding is all about look, touch, feel. Like, what is the feeling you get when I look at your brand and your logo? Like, what is the experience you're trying to create from day one? And a lot of that, I'm going to be honest, like you should probably outsource the branding stuff to somebody. Now, if somebody's quoting you $15,000 for a lookbook, that's probably too much for where you're at, unless you have significant, everything's relative to your current financial situation. But for me, at least, I'll give you that advice. $2,000, $3,000 is a great thing to pay a freelance brander to be able to come in, create a logo for you, give you some fonts, give you the colors, give you some advice on how to use that stuff. A lot of people skip this step because they look at it and they say, I'm not spending $3,000 on a logo package right now. I could use that money for something else. And which is funny to me because you probably end up wasting it on something else anyways. But like getting a brand in place, you wonder why people come to your website or they look at your physical assets you've written out or printed out, and like it feels cheap, or it feels, what's the word I'm looking here, Parker? It's like unofficial. Like it doesn't feel like you're a real business yet. It feels like, back in the day for us, I think we're probably close to the same age, like Microsoft Paint, or like, God forbid you do something in Outlook, or a PowerPoint design or something like that. You need to pay a professional to help you set the logo up, because it's a first impression. At the end of the day, the first time somebody sees your logo is the first time they're experiencing you and your brand. And so that first impression is huge. Mama was right. Like, make a good first impression, dress up, do all the things, put forward right. The face you want to be seen as, right? And then the next thing you got to understand about brand is simply like the story you tell about a person. That story can be positive. That story can be negative. And once you get enough people telling the same positive story about your brand, you have a very large brand, i.e. Chick-fil-A, right? A lot of people really love that brand, tell the same positive story. It's great. Negative brand could be something like Chick-fil-A. There's some people that don't like what they do. They tell a negative story about it, and they have a negative brand with them. For Chick-fil-A, more people have a positive association than negative, so they have a positive brand. Their business continues to grow. So you got to think about your entire business that way and go, like, every touch point with a customer is an opportunity for me to do branding, which is just marketing. Like customer service, phone calls, the way people dress, the way the website looks, the way the store looks. Like, it's literally everything. And don't get overwhelmed with that, because we can get overwhelmed by how big the elephant is. We got to eat it one bite at a time. Just as you go and you see things that need to be updated or processes that need to be updated, update them. And then move forward. With the barbecue restaurant, we started in a tent that I bought from Sam's Club that was like the wrong shade of blue. We were like a dark navy blue. This was like that weird light, blue color that they
like
sell.
A royal blue.
And then it fades in the sun over time and it looks terrible. And we had white tables with that sort of pop out and you pinch your fingers on when you try to get them undone. And we had like disposable chafing stands, and but we had a nice smoker. And that was the whole brand to start with. We had a good logo. I had a guy that designed NASCAR race car logos, design kits, designed the logo for me, and it was awesome. And so we had a good logo. We had a good tagline, but that was literally it, and a smoker and good food. But like everything else looked super shady. But over time, over the years, like we improved a little, and we improved all those brand points. Once you do that and you've got all that down, the next thing you got to do is build your website from a marketing standpoint. Now, your website, if you're a brick and mortar business, you're an e-com business, it doesn't really matter. The website is just a digital representation of what your brick and mortar store would look like. And so where people get in trouble with websites is they make them try to do too much, because digital real estate is free. But if you go to rent an office, or if you rent a restaurant like we did back in the day, there's only so much square footage that you've got, and you've only got so much budget to be able to get customers in the door and get them to do a very specific thing. And so when you go to High Beam Marketing, it's very clear that option A for you is to book a discovery call with us. Like, that is the first thing I want you to do. Option 2, should you choose that adventure, is to sign up for our email list, because I think that's the second most important thing. Option 3, as you like really dig into our store, and like it's sort of like Target or something like that, and you're like wandering the aisles, like if you don't just come in and buy something in the dollar section up front, like as you're wandering the aisles, You can find our blogs, or you can find podcasts we've done. You can find out more about us as a team, or book me to speak. Like, there's a lot of sub pages, but it's very clear the top two things that I want you to do when you go to that website. And so if you already have a website out there, go to a Wix.com. That's what we use for our website and a lot of our client websites. It's a great builder now. You don't need like a WordPress thing. You don't need something super expensive because we're all startups here. Use one of their pre-done templates, plug your branding elements into it, make it look nice, but have a clear direction of what it is you want people to do when they go to that website. Imagine they walked in the front door of your business. What's the plan? Like, where are they supposed to go? Make them do that. The next part of your marketing strategy, and interrupt me with any questions or anything, because I feel like I'm just like hammering.
You're good.
This is my soapbox, Parker. You got me on it. This is your fault, bud.
Yeah, no, I'll pause and say just real quick, on the topic of branding, right? One thing I love about it is that there's two sides of it. There's a brand for a business, but there's also a brand for personal. Like, we all are brands. And in 2024, with our online presence and stuff, we all have a brand. And you touched on this, but something I love about it is it's basically just telling our story. And do you want strangers or even the naysayers to have the pen and be telling the story? Or do you want to have the pen and be telling the story? Because if you don't do anything with your brand, if you're not focusing on your brand, if you don't want to put in the money or put in the work or whatever, the brand is still going to be there and it's all going to still unfold, and it's probably not going to be great.
Yeah. Or even worse, they don't talk about you at all, which,
right.
by the way, is what happens to most businesses when they close. It's not that they make bad financial bets like I did. They have a good product. They just want to run their one little shop and live their American dream in that small piece. Most people don't want to scale to $1 billion business, right? But you go look at their Google reviews and it's like 4.5 stars, or their Amazon reviews, 4.5 stars, like really good reviews, the great products. So then you got to ask yourself, like, why didn't they do well? Well, it's because nobody knew about them. Marketing at the end of the day, well, I'll say this, let me back up. We do business with people that we know, that we like, that we trust. And marketing's job is to get people to know about you, to like you, and to trust that you're going to do the thing that you said you were going to do. So yeah, you're right. If you're willing to take a step back and not do anything, like, I hope you make it. But if you do make it, you'll be the exception, not the rule.
Right. Yeah. The opportunity is in you creating the narrative around your brand and making it how you want it to be. But also, you mentioned too, competing with your barbecue business, against other big players like McDonald's and stuff. That reminded me of a story, because I used to do marketing and advertising for a haunted straw maze in a really small town in Idaho. And we would get
Awesome.
like local businesses to sponsor a night and like put out their signs and all this stuff. And I was the person to go out and try to sell it. And one guy is just a local business in a very small town, Idaho. He's like, everyone here already knows us. Like, why on earth would I need to spend any money on marketing at all? And my response to him was, well, you don't think everybody already knows McDonald's? And he was like, what do you mean everyone knows them? I'm like, yeah, and they're the number one ad spender in the world in that industry, because it's not about just knowing who they are, but it's about having them constantly in your face, top of mind, like they're the next decision you're going to make. Mm-hmm. So even if people already know you, branding and marketing is still very important.
Well, we know as leaders of companies and organizations that you may say something to your team one time, and it's like everybody knows now. But what is your actual job as a leader, right? Which is a whole other bucket of things we can get into. Your job is to be a chief reminding officer. So you've already told everybody where we're going. You already told everybody why we're doing it. You've already told people what the standard is to get it done. But then you have to go around and remind people again and again and again and again. And humans are busy. I mean, we process some ungodly amount of data every single day, and we ignore 99.8% of it. I think I read this one time, is like, you're consciously aware of 70 decisions a day. Like, you make consciously 70 decisions. Everything else is done off of instinct, habit, process, whatever. And so, if that's you, every other customer you're going to work with they're not different. We make this mistake of thinking that other people aren't like us. I met this one person that said, Google ads don't really work. And I didn't really argue with her too much. I said, okay, well, we see it work a lot, especially for intent-based things, da-da-da. And, we moved on. We started working with her. And 2 weeks later, she came back to me and she was like, you know what? I just realized over the last 2 weeks, I've clicked on like 5 Google ads. And I truly didn't think I clicked on any before we had our conversation. But because you made me aware of it, all of a sudden, I'm seeing that I'm clicking on all these Google ads. And yeah, you're 100% right with the McDonald's thing. Like Coca-Cola is the best known brand in the world. They spend 9% of their revenue every year on marketing. Nobody needs to know what Coke is. Like, unless you're a baby that just came out of the chute, like, you know what Coca-Cola is. But they're just constantly reinforcing the brand they've already built. That's why they're doing marketing. But you can't market your business like a Coca-Cola, right? Like, you have to have a little bit different strategy inside of the marketing mix, which is kind of what we've been going through here today. Like, I doubt you need to buy a billboard unless you're a highway restaurant business that's going to have somebody impulse buy or something like that, or a radio ad even. There's better ROI marketing activities that you could do that we'll get to here in a little bit.
Yeah, which we can keep going down that trail of the strategy that you had for us. And then I just have a couple more questions, and I'll remind the listeners on our live here that if you've got any questions, make sure me or Kaylee knows, and we'll ask one or two of your questions too once we kind of wrap up.
Yeah, I'll rapid fire through these next 3 because they're more of like a weekly or daily tactical thing that you'll do. So we got our brand in line. That's a lot of strategy work. We've got our website built. That's a lot of strategy work. And then the next thing you're going to do is get your email list set up. Like, do you have a way to collect emails? Do you have a lead magnet? Do you have a free offer? Like, we gave away free pulled pork sandwiches if you signed up for our email list and it was your first time joining the email list. That was like, this pulled pork sandwich cost me like it cost me like $1.25 for the sandwich. And then I would get email leads for like 50 cents. And so for the price of like, let's call it $4, because 1 in every 4 people would actually come into the restaurant and redeem the thing, I was acquiring new customers. And I knew that 50% of them would come back again and again and again. And then we just had a weekly email newsletter that we sent out where I would just sort of like give my thoughts on what was happening around the barbecue restaurant. And my email would show up in their inbox and it would just keep us top of mind. Again, marketing, know, like, trust, just staying top of mind, stay liking us, stay trusting us. And then after you get your email marketing stuff set up, you got to get onto the organic social media train, which means you're making content for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. It really just sort of depends on your business and where your customers hang out. But I don't want you to have the expectation that social media is going to sell any products for you, because it's just not. I worked at a place where they got billions and billions of impressions and it was millions of dollars of revenue, which was so small considering the amount of effort and resources that were invested in all that stuff. What you should look at organic social media for now is a testing ground for your ads that you're going to run on paid media. There's going to be a certain set of people that are really like deep in your tribe that really want to consume all of your content and like may or may not interact with it. But like when they see you, they'll come up to you and be like, oh, Parker, I really like that thing you've been doing. And then you go back and check TikTok and you're like, this guy hasn't liked one of these posts, but he's consuming all of them. Like that's how you're sort of staying top of mind with organic social. But you really want to make organic content, see what the algorithm pushes for free, and then the best performing stuff becomes your ads. And so you don't want to hit the blue boost button, but you actually want to go into the business managers on whatever platforms and turn that content into ads, and then have a new call to action on those videos. Maybe you re-record that. But it's paid ads is the last piece. Like, you've got to spend money to make money. And I highly recommend you do whatever you can to spend 10% of your top line revenue, 15% if you've got a higher margin business and you really want to grow, on marketing. And even if you waste it, at least it was on marketing and you're testing things and learning things. And because there's no other way you're going to grow your business than to market it. There just isn't. The world's too complicated. It's too complicated. It's too competitive. You got to invest money in marketing. And at the restaurant, we were doing, I think at the end, we were doing right at $1 million a year. We were spending $5,000-$6,000 a month just on Facebook ads, and that was for a 3 to 4 mile radius. That wasn't even the whole city of Lexington. That was like 1 4 mile radius. Cause I'd sort of figured out over a couple of years that like, if I changed the radius too much, it didn't work. Like, that was a significant amount of money. And when I tell other brick and mortar owners that dollar amount, they're shocked because they're thinking like, I'm spending $5 a day on a random boosted post. You want me to spend how much on ads? And I get it, because cash flow, again, is the number one reason businesses close. There's just cash flow issues. So you got to invest money in marketing. Otherwise, I think, what does the SBA tell us about small business owners' income? I think entrepreneurs make on average $46,000, $47,000 a year. And it's not because you have a bad product or service, because nobody knows about you. That's the only difference.
Tons and tons of value was just shared. So I hope everyone was taking notes. And if you're listening to the episode, this is a good reminder to maybe, when you're not driving or when you're not, tied up with something, to rewind that a little bit and take notes so you can really scale your business properly. Because you're right too, we're in a very saturated market where pretty much since 2019, there's I think it was triple the amount of businesses that have been created, because there's just so many people having their own things that they're building now. So I have one more question for you before we do some from the TikTok live here. Mine was more around family and faith, and in your world outside of business, I guess I'm curious if you've been supported in all the things that you've been pursuing, and how maybe they've helped you and how you've grown together.
My first business, my wife and I had just gotten married, and we combined our bank accounts, and she saw how much money I was spending on my barbecue hobby, and we had a discussion. And if you're married, you know what that means.
Discussion.
Yeah, discussion. And, we came to a conclusion. And I'm going to say I said, if I can sell enough barbecue to break even, then you can't give me a hard time about my hobby. And that's literally how I got into the barbecue business, was just sort of selling barbecue to fund a hobby. So that business started from a very almost combative place with my wife. And we were both young. We got married really young at 21. And I'm 34 now. So we've been together 13 years next May. And so, you don't know what you don't know, again, and we loved each other more than we loved anything else in the world. And so we fought through it, and we discussed through it, and we got through it. And over 6 years, I did some things well, but there are a lot of other things I did not do well. And my wife has a much lower risk tolerance than me. And instead of respecting that, I would argue with it and see it as a roadblock to get to where I was trying to go, other than seeing it as a wise piece of counsel from somebody that truly loved me and wanted what was best for me, and finding a way to say, okay, tell me what you're thinking. Tell me why. Ask questions. Be like, okay, so you're saying cash is a reason you're worried. You're worried about this debt that's on the business. You're worried about us personally guaranteeing our house. Okay, what if I made some solutions around those things so we didn't actually risk those things? And I never did that. And so we just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And to be completely transparent with you, closing that first business almost cost me my marriage, because it was such a traumatic experience for both of us. And it would have all been my fault had she done what she could have done, and rightfully so left, because I wasn't listening to her. I got to take 2 years off from owning my own business and do a lot of reflection and a lot of thinking. And I promised her that the second business would be done differently. And so I had a lot of ideas over those 2 years. I talked to her on long walks about all of them. And there's a few that we liked and a few that we didn't. One of my dreams is to open a fast food smash burger restaurant, an old school fast food restaurant, because I don't think we have any good, cheap, old school fast food cheeseburger restaurants anymore, at least here where I live. Yeah. And she was against it. And fair enough, I'm not going to get back into another restaurant, right? But we landed on this marketing thing. I could be working from home. I could be around to help with the kids. We have 2 kids. There was a lot of things we liked about it. And so she signed off on it. And then we made a plan for me to go, to leave a stable job, but to go to another stable job. But it was a remote job, so that I had more time during the week, again, communicating, risk regulation, all the things. And then I did that for 18 months while we had our son, while we moved houses, while we did a lot of things that were family first, but the business was still able to operate and grow. And it was a tough year. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of long weeks. I'll say that. But it paid off in the long run, because here we are almost 3 years in, and everything is much smoother sailing. Her and I don't fight about this business like we did the last one. We have a lot of discussions, and it's great for me to have somebody that cares about me a lot, that I can bring different problems I'm having within the business. And even if she has an answer or not, it's just nice to have somebody there to be a sounding board. And like without my wife, like I would be a quarter of the person I am now. And it just is somebody I'm so, so grateful for. So if you have somebody in your life that loves you like that, whether it's a spouse, a parent, a brother, a friend, cherish their counsel, still make the decision you need to make, but don't disrespect what they can bring to the table if you'll let them.
Love that. Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for being vulnerable and sharing some of those inside, secrets and or an inside look that people normally probably don't get to see. And it's really helpful because we all relate. We all have those people in our families. Yeah. We've got some questions here from the TikTok group. If you're chill with answering those real quick.
My advice is worth what you pay for it.
One of them was from a friend of mine named Eagle Master. He's a wildlife photographer on a remote island in Alaska. Takes really cool pictures of bears and eagles. And I was watching his live last night, and there were literally bears like catching their salmon and stuff, and he was like 50 feet away from them, just watching, taking pictures. He's a great guy. But he had a question because he sells his photography and all these things too. Is it better to invest in your products, like the quality of your products, or the advertising of the products?
This is the age-old question. This is the question between every person that is I'm going to call it technician. Michael Gerber wrote a book called The E-Myth, which I highly recommend everybody out there read. It's something I read every January to remind myself of the lessons. But everybody has inside of them three people: a technician, a manager, and an entrepreneur. The technician loves the thing. Your friend, the Eagle Master, loves photography and probably loves wildlife. And given his options, would probably spend all of his money on doing more of that, more excursions, more camera gear. Oh my gosh, I'm in marketing. Do you know how much camera gear costs, man? Like
a lot. Just
Google Red camera from Canon. Like that thing will make you
$5,000.
Oh, it's more. It's like 50. I mean, they're so expensive. Dang. That's just the kit. You're not talking about lenses. We're not talking about mics. We're not talking about lighting setups. Like that world is a world where you can invest so much money in the product that it can get out of control. You're going to have to come to terms with this. At some point, you're going to have to look at your own budget and go like, okay, based on where I'm at this level of business, do I have the gear I need to take a picture? I'm assuming he's selling pictures, or even if he's selling photography services, like, do I have what I need to make a profit and sell a product that I'm proud of? That's a product. Now, again, product is not art. Art is something you bleed for, you die for, you'll go all in for. Like that is not something you expect to be profit. Like that is art. You're just doing that for your own like inner itch to get something out. When you go to like, we had this conversation at the barbecue restaurant. I'll give you the example. Like we used to make we used to have a wood-fired smoker that we would stay up all night with, which made us terrible daytime operators. And then we looked at hiring people to do it, and it was so expensive. And so we decided to go the automatic smoker route, which made our lives infinitely easier, but was like, let's call it 85% of good barbecue as what we were making previously. But most people can't tell the difference between 85 and 100% barbecue unless you're like a barbecue sommelier. And so we used the savings in money, because that thing paid for itself in like a month, to spend more money on Facebook ads, which then gave us more money to be able to buy better equipment, make better barbecue, hire more people, do all the things. I have a sneaky suspicion your friend has everything he needs to sell stuff. Now he just needs to get more people to know about the thing that he sells. So I would probably invest it in marketing. And then the cool thing is that once you sell more, all of a sudden then you're exposed to the things you need to go buy. Because sometimes you'll buy things before you're ready or before you know if you really need it or not. And then you'll get it. Yeah, right. You'll get it. And then you'll be like, shit, like I don't actually need this thing. I needed something else. The minimal viable product, right? Like that is like launch with what you can and then iterate and improve over time. That's every business. That's a law.
Love that. And there you go, Eagle. I hope that helps. Then we've got friend Shelly. She's asking, in regards to marketing, how do you set your business apart from others in your industry when everyone's trying to do the same thing?
there's nothing new under the sun, right? Austin Kleon wrote a great book called Steal Like an Artist, and I love that book. I love the idea of nothing new. You take one thing, you take another thing, you combine them together. Now you have something that's inspired but is new. And that's what all of us are doing in business. And so, for instance, Hy-Vee Marketing is a digital advertising agency. That is not new. But what we can do that's new is we take paid ads management, which is what we're really, really good at. And then we take strategy and coaching, which is what I bring to the table because I have a brick and mortar background. I went and met with 30 agencies when I had the barbecue restaurant. None of them had a background in owning a business like I did. None of them had been in the trenches dealing with the crap I was dealing with. They all were just, their business was agency. And they didn't understand where I was coming from, and I really understand where $1 to $10 million business owners are coming from. So we've taken these two very, I'm not the only barbecue restaurant owner in the world. I'm not the only entrepreneur in the world. I'm not the only paid ads agency in the world, but I'm probably one of the only ones that have owned a barbecue restaurant and opened a paid ads agency. And so now we're really, really unique. And now my job is to go around and be on podcasts like this, create LinkedIn and TikTok and YouTube and create content and get, again, many people to know about us as possible and know that story. And another thing we do specifically at Hy-Beam is that we're very strategic. And so we're not just giving you the paid ad stuff. We're really asking you questions about your holistic business. It's really like having a CMO, a chief marketing officer on your team. And so just keep looking for little things like that, how you can differentiate your business from everybody else. The barbecue restaurant, again, nothing new about barbecue. We did not invent barbecue. You'd have to go back a couple hundred years, and depending on the region, either the Caribbean or Texas or something like that, to see where barbecue was invented. But we made it different because we made 100% of the menu from scratch. And we branded my mom as Mama Lyles, like the ideator of this menu. And those things made it different and made people still message me about that barbecue restaurant. And that's been closed for 4 years at this point.
Yeah. Dang, that's awesome. And I love what you said. I can talk a lot about that too, the personal branding aspect and leveraging what your unique characteristics are and stuff. I'm actually writing a book about that right now, that hopefully will be coming out before the end of this year. But yeah, I work with, believe it or not, a lot of like dentists and chiropractors in helping them run their podcasts and stuff. And they all are like, what sets me apart from being just like any other dentist? It's like you have to look into you and yourself and what makes you different. Like, are you the beatboxing dentist? Are you the bicyclist dentist? Like, what are your other things that make you unique that you can kind of bring this all together with?
Have you ever read anything on brand archetypes? Have you gone down that rabbit hole yet?
I have not, I don't think.
I'd highly recommend checking some of that stuff out. That's that we can do that on part 2 for this podcast, but brand archetypes are the best way for you to stand out. I actually just wrote a blog about this, like it's a positioning statement blog. And so if your listeners want that, they just go to hybeemarketing.com and it's an article there. And it gets into this like neat, like really in the weeds of like this brand archetype stuff. You look at a company like Liquid Death, it's fuzzy water. It's fuzzy water. Like why is it so loved? Well, there was no water that was representing the brand archetype called the Rebel, right? So like the Rebel, other Rebels would be like Harley Davidson or something like that, right? Like rock and roll Rebel. Dasani is like every man's water. It's just everybody can get it. It's everywhere. It's cheap, blah, blah, blah. Liquid Death is the Rebel water. They make ads that reflect that. It like when you figure out your brand archetype, it makes it much, much simpler for you to be able to make a lot of other strategic marketing decisions. Like my personal brand archetype for me is the magician. I'm very much into vision and change and magic and helping you grow and do all those things. And so I do content like this. Like we're not in the weeds really talking about like, here's how to place a Facebook pixel onto your website. Like we're talking about, here's some things you got to do to transform from where you are today to where you're going in the future. So yeah, Google brand archetype. I would recommend that.
Okay. Yeah. And I would absolutely love to do a part 2 where we could do more into that. That'd be awesome. So this is from Kaylee G. She also does photography. She says, what are the important things to consider when you are hiring to help, for hiring someone to help you with advertising?
That's a big question. I would say number one, what is your internal feeling you get when talking to them? Because a lot of people are really good at selling. They're not really good at delivering the thing they sold, but they're really good at selling. And so some of the red flags I look for is how many questions do they ask you? Like, what do they, and not even are they asking you questions? Like, we can all do the pain funnel and like, oh, how does that make you feel? And like, then you agitate the problem and then you present yourself as the solution. I want to know more of like when I'm asking people about their business, I'm like, how long have you been in business? What's going on? What's your biggest challenge? Like, how much are you spending on marketing? What's your top line revenue? What are you investing in marketing? What's your CAC? What's your margin? I need to understand the business like I am hired to be your chief marketing officer, because if I don't, I can't make really good recommendations for you. And one of the things I'm most proud of with HighBeam is that if you're with us 90 days, which is our minimum like testing period to see, because it takes about 90 days to figure everything out. Like if you're with us 90 days, the chances you're with us a year are very, very high. And the only reason for that is because our vetting process before we put you into that 90-day program is so high. But I got to know, like, I don't want to sell you something that's going to hurt you in the long run. And there's a lot of agencies, oh my gosh, like I can't tell you how much business we've taken from other agencies that have probably 80% of our customers come in and tell us some version of the same horror story of like, I'm working with this agency. I'm working with this agency. I don't ever hear from them. I'm pretty sure they outsource this somewhere overseas. Like they don't call me back. They don't email me on time. They email me on Friday at 5. Like I've heard that story so much now that it's a stereotype for us. Like it's a true pain point. And now I basically tell people, if you have a problem with a previous agency and you don't think they're doing their job well, if you think you can run the ads better than me, or if you think Facebook ads don't work or Google ads don't work, if you have one of those 3 problems, like there's a good chance HighBeam Marketing can help you. But to round out that answer and give you something very clear and direct at the end, find out if the agency is actually in the business of helping you or helping themselves. And the only way you can figure that out is to find out or to listen to what questions they're asking about your business specifically from a strategic level. Like, are they answering the questions? Are they asking questions that another business owner would want to know the answers to? Like if they're going to buy your business, those are the kind of questions I'd want to know. Are they asking?
Great response. That definitely is helpful for me, for Kaylee, for anyone listening. I would also just say do your research too before talking to them, because some people might try to sell you with something that's really not a big deal, but they'll make it seem like a big deal. You know, like, hey, we'll take care of all of this for you, and that all this is like a super easy task that takes no work. So, yeah, no, I appreciate that. We'll close out here with a beatbox for your name. Cool. Thank you for Chandler Lyles. Chandler Lyles with HighBeam.
Dang, that's amazing. That's
Appreciate
awesome,
it, man. Hey, thanks for your time here on UPBEAT.